Let's talk about the Everest. It is the racing event of the year. Tell me about where the idea came from originally and the inspiration behind it.
Look, I was talking to the media here in Sydney and they basically said if you want to get mainstream coverage of racing, you need a major event that carries at least $10 million in prize money. At that time we didn't have the resources or the money to do the $10 million. And I noticed this race that came in America called the Pegasus, and how it was a slot owner concept. And I thought to myself, well, that's the way we can raise the 10 million. So we did an investigation on the slots and how we could sell the slots and etc. Then we looked at the distance, and in Australia, where our best horses are sprinters. So we looked at the 1200 metre distance, and then we had to find a name that would capture the people's imagination and that it's the ultimate race, it's the ultimate peak race. And we came up with the Everest, and to our surprise, all the domain names and business names were available for the race. So we called it the Everest, and it started at 10 million, and most of that came from the slot owners, and then we have been able to increase it to 20 million because of all the revenue that it's generated itself. We targeted the race for under 35s, and in the first couple of years, about 80% of our audience was under 35, and it's continued that way. And what's happened, it's had a halo effect because those young people that are coming for the Everest are coming other times during the year. And so you're getting a much younger crowd to the races than what we were before.
Group 1 status confirmed for the Everest. How satisfying is that for you? It must be the cherry on top.
For us, it's more for the breeders and the participants in racing, because the young people that come to watch the Everest, they don't know whether it's a Group 1 or a Group 16, they couldn't care less. It's about the entertainment value, it's about the event. But for us it's important because of the commercial aspects of it. One of the things I'm very excited about at the moment is the World Pool. And in order to be in the World Pool, you've got to be a Group 1. So, and the Everest was the leading sprint race throughout the world. It rated, if it wasn't the best, it was certainly in the top 2 sprint race in the world pretty well since its conception. And it was one of the highest rated races in Australia since its conception. So if there's any credibility on the group enlisted guidelines, the Everest should always be a Group 1.
You give me the impression that you're someone that doesn't stop at the boundaries, you're pushing all the time. Where do you take the Everest next?
Look, I think we've got to continue raising the prize money of the Everest to make it such an aspirational race for people to win. And what I like about the Everest, it was always thought that all these rich people are going to win the race. That hasn't happened. It's actually, the syndicates that have been winning the race. And there's one person in one of the syndicates that was in Redzell and now is in Private Eye, and he only owns 5%. He's a small investor that's been able to really do well out of the Everest. So I want to see more syndicates winning the race, and small-time investors that have had a little flutter in ownership and get that aspirational race of the Everest.
You talk about prize money. What about internationals? Can we attract more internationals to the race?
The problem with the internationals, other than Japan, Hong Kong, and New Zealand, they aren't that competitive over our distance. Australia, I think, is the best over 1200 metres. We breed our horses for that sprint distance.
New Zealand are known for their stayers and middle distance horses, but there's been a bit of a resurgence in the sprinters. So what's your take on that?
We want New Zealand to be strong in all distances, not just staying distances. So it'd be great if they were as good as Australia over the sprinting distances, because we want that international competition, and we want horses going to Australia and to New Zealand. I'd like to eventually to see horses from Australia compete in New Zealand, because it's always been New Zealand horses compete in Australia. But if they continue to resurge and get the strength that they've done in the last couple of years, there's an opportunity there for Australian horses to go to New Zealand.
I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you for your thoughts on the Everest for 2024. Who do you think is going to win?
Look, I think it's a very open race. I think it's one of the most open races we've had. The class horse is Giga Kick, naturally, and we just want to see if it's returned from injury. And look, Private Eye has certainly been up there, and look, it wouldn't surprise me any of the horses could win, and it would not be a surprise.